social media did something nobody saw coming. It turned into the biggest confession booth in human history. It gave women a global stage to reveal who they really are when they think no one's judging. Every TikTok rant, every Instagram story, every hot girl summer post, it's all self-incrimination disguised as empowerment. The mask isn't just slipping anymore. It's gone. And what's underneath isn't confidence. It's chaos, emotional debt, unresolved trauma, and years of entitlement disguised as self-love. Let's be real. 20 years ago, what would have destroyed a woman's reputation is now a trend. Bragging about body counts, cheating for revenge, manipulating men for fun money. It's no longer shameful. It's content. They call it honesty. They call it freedom. But what they're really doing is showing men exactly why modern dating feels like emotional Russian roulette. I saw a video yesterday. Woman in her early 30s, divorced, 2 kids, sitting in her car filming herself saying, "It's my new boyfriend's job to heal my trauma." Out loud, on camera. And the comments? Thousands of women cheering her on. Yes, queen, if he can't handle your pain, he doesn't deserve you. Think about that. She's not looking for a partner. She's looking for an emotional rehab center. And men are supposed to foot the bill. This is what I call emotional debt. Every heartbreak, every situationship, every meaningless hookup adds to the balance. And now, they expect good men to pay it off with patience, validation, and loyalty. You didn't create the damage. You weren't there when the chaos began. But now you're expected to fix it. One of my clients, good man, stable career, disciplined, met a woman who seemed perfect. 3 months in, she starts unraveling. Her ex was toxic, the guy before that cheated, the one before that wouldn't commit. Suddenly, he's in a relationship with her past, forced to prove he's not like the others. He's not dating her. He's dating her trauma. This is the hidden cost of the casual sex era. Decades of sexual liberation turned into emotional bankruptcy. Women spent their prime years confusing validation for affection, lust for love, and attention for intimacy. Now at 30-something, they're bitter, exhausted, and pointing fingers. The men who used them are long gone, so the blame falls on the ones who actually care. Here's the part that stings. They know they're damaged. They know their ability to trust and pair bond is fractured. But instead of taking responsibility, they rebrand it as boundaries. Instead of healing, they demand acceptance. You have to love me as I am. No, your trauma is not a personality trait. It's your responsibility to deal with, not your next boyfriend's to fix. Social media turned delusion into doctrine. They call bitterness self-respect. They call emotional numbness independence. They call endless validation-seeking empowerment. They've built entire online echo chambers to protect themselves from accountability. Every failed fling becomes growth. Every heartbreak becomes a story. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Every meaningless hookup takes something from you. Every time you give your body to someone who doesn't care, you lose a piece of yourself. By the time they're ready to settle down, there's nothing left to give, just emotional residue pretending to be connection. The sexual marketplace has rules, whether we like them or not. In their 20s, women traded beauty for attention and mistook attention for value. Now the market's changed, and the same currency is worth less. The return on chaos is gone, and the bitterness is setting in. I've seen it too many times. She spent 15 years chasing thrills, ignoring discipline, ignoring self-work. Then she meets a man of substance and expects him to refinance her emotional debt, rebuild her trust, and ignore the past. She wants a premium relationship at a clearance price. But life doesn't work like that. Modern dating isn't just broken, it's imbalanced. Men are waking up to a truth nobody wants to say out loud. Love built on trauma is not love. It's emotional debt disguised as intimacy. And until accountability replaces entitlement, peace will always be more valuable than passion. All debt, you are incapable of managing a real woman and are emotionally unavailable. a real woman? No. You are a dress made up of all your unsolved problems. Before starting a new relationship, a true woman would take care of her own emotional debt. A true woman wouldn't demand that a man cover the cost of harm he didn't cause. A true woman would accept responsibility for her decisions rather than expecting others to address the fallout. The dynamics of abuse are crazy. These women will actually discipline their present boyfriend for actions taken by their former partner. Because her ex ignored her, he doesn't text back right away. Goes out with friends after being cheated on by her ex. Because her ex was domineering, he establishes boundaries. Since he isn't competing with her, the man can't win. God forbid you mention their past, since he is vying with the ghost of Dick's past. Find out how many people they have. You lack confidence. Why were all of their ex-partners narcissists? You're blaming the victim. Identify trends in the history of their relationship. You pass judgment. They want you to pay for their history while also ignoring it. Without representation, it's emotional taxation. The worst aspect is the addiction to validation. These women are unable to function without constant attention because they have spent so many years using sex as a means of affirmation. They require constant reinforcement, dozens of matches, and hundreds of likes. Because they are accustomed to having hundreds, one man's attention is insufficient. You are supposed to be their dealer since they are attention seekers. This is aptly revealed by social media. Observe a woman in a relationship who continues to post thirst traps, look to strangers for approval, and maintain orbiters on standby. The strength of her addiction prevents her from quitting. Even if it ends a relationship, she craves the dopamine rush of male attention. And it's your insecurity that causes it to happen. The carousel causes irreversible psychological harm. These ladies are unable to form healthy bonds. Their minds have been conditioned to crave novelty, to never be content, and to constantly seek out the next improvement. They evaluate each man by combining the positive qualities of all the men they have dated. With one ex, you are not in competition. You are up against a Frankenstein's monster consisting of 20 distinct men. Here's what's actually going on, though. They're recognizing that their plan didn't work. It was an easy strategy. Attractive young men. Lock down a provider when they get older, but the attractive guys dump them, and now the providers are realizing the truth. They're currently torn between men they want but won't commit and men they want but wouldn't commit. This produces a poisonous bitterness. They are angry with average males for not being attractive, angry at hot guys for not committing, and angry at themselves for their decisions, but unwilling to acknowledge it. They therefore blame their rage on any man is foolish enough to date them. He becomes the target of 10 years of poor choices. This was made worse by modern dating applications. At previously unheard of rates, women can now accumulate emotional debt. A year with 50 first dates, hundreds of games, several situational relationships. Each one contributes to the debt. Each of them reduces their capacity for genuine connection. They're emotionally spent by the time they're prepared for something significant. The transactional mentality is illuminating. When they had power, they offered sex for free. They now want free commitment, even though they don't. They view relationships as exchanges rather than alliances. How can you help me? What are your contributions? How can you resolve my issues? They constantly take what they can, never what they can give. I frequently give advice to men who are struggling with this. Before gradually realizing they're really an emotional cleanup crew, they encounter a woman and think she's fantastic. Their purpose is to fix harm, not to win people over. They play the role of therapist rather than partner. They're not working together to construct anything. She is using it to settle her emotional debts. There's a real accountability allergy. To escape accepting accountability for their decisions, these women will engage in mental acrobatics. In every failed relationship, the man was at blame. Every failure was a result of external factors. All the penalties were unjust. In their own catastrophes, they are never the common denominator. Someone else is always at fault. Do you want to know the truth? Inquire about a woman's past partners. Run if they're all __ abusers and narcissists. She is either the issue or she has the worst judgment in history. Most likely both. When a woman can't say anything positive about an ex, she's telling you exactly how she will talk about you after the relationship is finished. There are few exceptions, but they are uncommon. Some women actually take responsibility for their actions, grow from their mistakes, and overcome their trauma. However, they don't boast about their body count on TikTok. They don't want males to fix them. They're improving themselves, accepting responsibility, and working on themselves in private. These women are really valuable, yet it's difficult to discover them in the contemporary era. The men's counsel is straightforward, yet severe. Date without emotional debt. Avoid paying for harm that you did not cause. Don't serve as a rehabilitation facility for others. She cannot manage a relationship if she is unable to manage her own trauma. She isn't prepared for you if she thinks you will fix her. Walk away and make her past her problem if it is yours. At never-before-seen rates, women are coming clean about themselves. Their red flags are actually being posted as content. I'm insane, but entertaining. I need a man who can cope with my trauma if you can't handle me when I'm at my worst. They're alerting you. Have faith in them. Don't attempt to fix anything that someone claims are damaged. Simply go. There are scams involving therapeutic journeys everywhere. These ladies just post quotes on Instagram while talking about doing the work. They believe that going to treatment once a month while maintaining harmful behaviors equals progress. They conflate discussing issues with finding solutions. They're not getting better. They're simply learning to express their harm more clearly. These women have a dismal future. They have a lot of emotional debt that no one wants to pay when they age out of the sexual market. They expect preferential treatment for inferior products and are resentful, injured, and unable to pay bail. Their trauma is unimportant to the wall. Their healing process is irrelevant to time. Boundaries are irrelevant to biology. At mass, men are becoming aware of this. Despite all of its shortcomings, the red pill movement taught men to spot emotional debt, to see the warning signs, and to stay out of the trap. One less male willing to cover someone else's faults is every man who learns about body counts, alpha widows, and emotional harm. There is a strike by the cleanup workers. It's an amazing projection. These women accuse guys of being emotional vampires and emotionally unavailable. Despite their inability to commit, they assert that males are commitment phobic. Carrying more baggage than an airport is said to harm males. It is never reflection. It is always projection and deflection. They have a rope to hang themselves with thanks to social media. Their standards, demands, trauma, and journey are all documented in every post. Men are able to clearly perceive what they are entering into. No more hiding behind the mystique of femininity. They can no longer act like someone they're not. In their own words, the truth is out there. The disparities in treatment are astounding. A man who has emotional baggage must deal with it on his own. When a woman has emotional baggage, she needs a man to take care of it. A man's history is important. The past of a woman is simply that, the past. A man ought to be valuable. The worth lies in a woman's presence. They desire new independence combined with ancient advantages. And when males don't want to play, they're astonished. Are you aware of what's actually taking place? Women are beginning to understand that their actions have repercussions, that traveling on the carousel for 10 years leaves scars, that treating relationships like transactions turns them into transactions, that emotional debt accrues interest, and that when the payment is due, nobody wants to pay it. The intelligent ones are in panic. They sense their authority waning, their alternatives becoming fewer, and the wall getting closer. The foolish ones intensify their efforts, elevate their expectations, and make more demands. They both wind up there by themselves with their cats, wondering where all the decent men have disappeared to. The decent men are in relationships with women who haven't accumulated emotional debt. They're no longer able to conceal their true femininity. They desire the advantages of both approaches. The excitement of bad guys and the stability of good men the freedom of feminism and the supply of traditionalism, the joy of the carousel and the assurance of commitment. They're upset with guys for noticing, want everything, and don't deserve any of it. The attempts at trauma bonding are pitiful. They attempt to hold you accountable for their emotional condition. They spiral if you don't text back. They disintegrate when boundaries are established. You're abandoning them if you don't fix them. They use their injury as a weapon to manipulate you. They mistake it for love, but it's actually emotional terrorism. Men must comprehend this. You're not a place where broken women can get help. Correcting someone else's bad decisions is not your responsibility. For trauma you did not cause, you owe no one emotional work. Finding a spouse is your responsibility, not taking on a project. She isn't prepared for a relationship if she arrives with emotional debt. There are generational repercussions. While writing about ending generational trauma, these emotionally unstable women are perpetuating cycles of dysfunction by teaching their sons that male responsibility is required and their daughters that accountability is optional. Nothing is being broken by them. All they're doing is repackaging it. This is the white pill, though. Men can choose. Emotional debt dating is something you can decline. You are able to demand better. You can leave items that are damaged. Accepting someone else's baggage as your burden is not necessary. You are exempt from paying for offenses you did not commit. Peace is preferable to difficulties. The norms must be reversed. Men require lists of disqualifiers rather than lists of demands like women do. High number bodies. Not eligible. Unable to stop discussing ex-partners. Not eligible. Anticipates that you will fix her. Not eligible. I'm still looking for internet validation. Not eligible. Possesses emotional debt. Not eligible. Be ruthless since in the opposite situation they would be. Women's complaints are a window into who they are. They're expressing that they need someone to save them when they gripe about guys not stepping up. They're exposing themselves as emotional vampires when they lament their lack of emotional availability. They're showing signs of desperation when they lament commitment problems. Pay attention to their grievances. It tells you everything. The confession booth on social media continues to produce proof. It's cute for women to post about their emotional trauma, toxic qualities, and wild side. It's not adorable. The label is a warning. Don't drink when someone tells you they're poison. Don't attempt to repair someone when they show you their damage. Trust people when they disclose their true selves. This is what no one discusses. The discrepancy between women's perceived worth and their real contributions. They gave their prime physical years to uncommitted males during their 20s, causing more and more emotional harm with every failed relationship. They demand an even better man than the ones who turn them down since they are in their 30s, have more baggage, are less fertile, and have hardened hearts. There's a startling cognitive dissonance. The damage that affirmation seeking does to one's self-esteem is severe. Male attention was the foundation of these women's entire identities. Likes on Instagram served as their currency. Their affirmation came from DMs. Their metric was body counts, but external validation is a medication that gradually necessitates bigger dosages. They now require continual comfort in order to feel normal. They have no intention of finding a companion. Permanent validation dispensers are what they're searching for. It's frightening how this can lead to abusive relationships. Unresolved emotional debt is not just a burden for women. They bring emotional instability, control, and manipulating patterns. They now know how to utilize victimization as a tactic, sex as money, and tears as weapons. They will deceive you into believing that you are to blame for their emotional instability. They will hold you accountable for their happiness while absolving you of any accountability for yours. I have witnessed these dynamics damage men. Good men who believe they can make someone healthier by loving them. Men who give up their tranquility, friendship, and sanity in an attempt to fill an unfillable emotional void. There is no need for boyfriends for these women. They need therapists, but they won't accept accountability, which is a requirement of therapy. Here, the subtlety is crucial. This is not the case for all ladies. Some women have truly worked on themselves, accepted responsibility for their past, and come into partnerships as complete individuals rather than as unfinished endeavors. However, they're becoming less common. The culture penalizes accountability, rewards victimization, and glorifies dysfunction. The rewards are reversed. Men who want partners rather than projects, who look for builders rather than burdens, and who refuse to take on emotional debt are the ones who will rule the future. The age of cleanup crews is coming to an end. Male standards are coming of age. Men can no longer pretend not to see their genuine selves, and women can no longer conceal who they are. This has nothing to do with detesting women. It has to do with acknowledging reality. Due to bad decisions, many women are carrying a heavy emotional burden. They anticipate that men will cover this obligation. More and more men are declining. For women who expected someone else to solve their difficulties, this causes a crisis. The answer is straightforward. Resolve your personal emotional debt or remain unmarried. The masks are removed. The game is exposed, and the truth is made public. Women unintentionally revealed to us their true selves and expectations. Their emotional debt, entitlement, and incapacity to accept responsibility were all exposed. They display their actual nature every day in an attempt to get likes and affirmation, so they're no longer able to conceal it. What do you do with this knowledge, then? Start by identifying emotional debt when you notice it. Second, don't reimburse someone for harm you didn't create. Third, insist on responsibility and accountability from any possible mate. Fourth, avoid interacting with people who expect you to fix them. Your life is too short to be devoted to making amends for the emotional debts of others. The wall has not been defeated. Time continues to pass. Feelings are irrelevant to biology. Men are also starting to awaken. Women are no longer able to conceal who they really are. And the finest thing that could have occurred was that, because we can now make well-informed decisions and see exactly what we're dealing with. Power comes from knowledge, and they provided the men reading this with all the information they needed. You are worthy of more than the emotional debt of another person. You deserve a companion who took care of your personal problems. You should be with someone who brings value, not trouble. Don't accept faulty products only because they are on hand. Enjoy isolation or wait for excellence. Both are preferable to having to pay for the errors of others. To the women who read this and were agitated, the point is demonstrated by your rage. You wouldn't be upset if you weren't affected by this. You can identify with these words if you're upset about them. Consider taking care of your emotional debt rather than blaming men for noticing. Perhaps accept responsibility. Could develop into a worthy partner. The game is now different. There is no longer any information imbalance. Women's hands were exposed, and they are laden with entitlement and emotional debt. Instead of using pretentious lies, men can now make well-informed decisions based on behavior that has been exposed. Those with the most emotional debt will be left carrying the bag once the sexual marketplace corrects. Women never wanted you to be aware of this. They are transactional by nature. They are completely unaccountable and have enormous emotional debt. However, they expose themselves. They shared everything to get approval on social media. And guys can obviously see it now. The dating industry as a whole is changing. The cleanup crew has been shut down. The rehabilitation facility has been closed. Either deal with your personal emotional debt or accept loneliness. The repercussions are theirs, but the decision is yours. Women are no longer able to conceal who they really are. Men are also unable to ignore what has been made public. The truth has been revealed. The game is revealed. For those who refuse to pay for harm they did not inflict, the future is theirs. Tell us about your emotional debt experience in the comment section. Have you dated any ladies who looked to you to help them deal with their trauma? Was it you who cleaned up after someone else's errors? Which warning signs have women unintentionally shared with you on social media? Men need to know they're not the only ones coping with this madness, so share your tales. Music